What up, family? Today we're going to talk about what Christ is, okay? So lots of people, when they hear about Christ, they automatically think about Jesus Christ. But that was just a title for Jesus Christ because he was what is called Holy Christed. So a lot of people was Holy Christed, like Jesus and Buddha, Mother Mary. Lots of spiritual people were Holy Christed. That's what Christ consciousness is, pretty much. That's what they call it today. So what Christ really is, Christ is the first light of creation. So before anything existed on the planet, it was complete just darkness. Then the divine masculine and divine feminine energy within that darkness decided to come together and put the energies together. So they pretty much had sex for the first time. So anyway, they came together, put their energies together, and when the divine feminine and divine masculine energies put the energies together, they created the divine child or divine son, which was the first light of creation. So it's like the divine feminine, divine masculine energies came together, and the spark of light came out that. So that was the first light of creation, and this light was caused by the friction of the divine masculine and divine feminine energies coming together, because the feminine energy goes kind of clockwise, while the masculine energy goes clockwise. So when they came together, it started friction, and that light came out. So when that light came out, pretty much the divine feminine and divine masculine was like, okay, what have we done, pretty much. And ever since then, they've been pretty much trying to stop the light from growing, because when the light saw that it existed, the light said, I am, and it just kept growing. The light just kept expanding, and it's still doing that today. And it's pretty much a battle between the light and the darkness that's going to just continue to go on forever and forever. And that's why we got so much going on today, because that first light of creation and the darkness that's up against it. Now that's something I heard from an African book about the Divine Mother and Divine Father trying to stop this light from shining. And that's what the battle is between the light and the darkness. They go back and forth. The light swallows up the darkness swallows up the light, and they just keep going back and forth against each other. So anyway, that's what Christ is. And the Egyptian gods Isis and Osiris and Heru, they got a lot to do with this. Like, okay, so if you ever heard the story of Osiris and Isis and Heru and Osiris's brother Seth, you'll hear about how Seth killed Osiris because he was jealous of the power he had. So when he killed Osiris, Isis brought him back, and then when she brought him back, they had a child, which was Heru. So then Seth killed Osiris again, but this time he couldn't get brought back. But they had the son, Heru. So, Osiris represents the divine masculine energy. Isis represents the divine feminine energy, and Heru represents the divine child or divine son. So when he killed Osiris, suddenly, Osiris, Seth didn't think that Heru had enough power to beat him. So all Heru's childhood years, he was planning and practicing how to beat his uncle so he could take over the kingdom again. He finally reached a point where he felt he was strong enough, and he went and he battled his uncle and killed him, and he took over the kingdom again. And him and Isis, Heru and Isis, ran the kingdom from that point on. Till somebody else ran the kingdom. But anyway, they saved the kingdom from Seth, who was a destructive person. So that's what the first light of creation represents, that savior energy, that you know what I'm saying? So that's what Heru represents, the divine son. and that Savior energy, that first light of creation, that Christ consciousness. Because the divine masculine and divine feminine couldn't do it themselves. They couldn't do it just with the divine masculine going up against a Seth, and they couldn't do it with the divine feminine just going up against a leader. That they need to come together and have a child create something in order to beat Seth, who was a destructive person. So that's how they overcame him. And it's also similar to the story of Jesus, because that's what he was doing too. In the book called the Magdalene Manuscripts, it shows you how Mary Magdalene, she was not a prostitute, but it says in that book that she practiced sex magic in the temple of Isis. And Jesus Christ, he had the soul of Osiris within him. Mary Magdalene had the soul of Isis within her. And that's why he came here, was so they can reach that Heru, that Christ consciousness within themselves, and they could create a pathway for us to save ourselves. Because what happened was, in that book, Mary Magdalene taught the sex magic to Jesus Christ. They did the sex magic with each other, and because of this, that strengthened his light body, or his effort body, or whatever you're gonna call it. It strengthened it strong enough to where he was able to reach Christ consciousness and be the savior of his own self within his self. And because his power was strong enough, he was able to go into the hell within himself and overcome that. And then he was able to save himself. And because he did that, he created a pathway for everybody else to save themselves. So the story of Jesus Christ, the story of Osiris and Isis, and also the story of Lion King. The Lion King story also is just like it. How, what's his name? Mufasa. That kind of sound like Osiris. He got three syllables. Mufasa was the king, and then Uncle Scar, which kind of sound like Seth. Uncle Scar, he was the evil uncle who was trying to take over. And then Simba, which is two syllables like Heru, he's the one that got to save the kingdom, even though he didn't think that he was strong enough to save it at first, and he saved the kingdom. So that's just like this story with Jesus and the story of Osiris and Isis is the same thing. So all this time, they've been trying to teach you how to reach Christ consciousness. And if you remember, in the Lion King story, that part where he goes to see Rafiki, and Rafiki tells him that to look at his reflection. And when he looks at his reflection, he says, "That's not my father. That's just me." And he said, "You had to remember that your father lives within you." So, and then Mufasa comes out and he says, "Remember who you are." And when he seen his father, that's what gave him the power to keep pushing, to keep going, and be his uncle. So I think that was telling you to remember that God lives within you. God lives within you. He's not some man up in the cloud somewhere. He lives within you. And once you realize that, you have enough power to save your own kingdom. Because you are your savior. That's that Christ consciousness, man. So Mufasa came out the sky and taught Simba how to get Christ consciousness. And then he dipped out. And then Simba went and saved the kingdom. And so that's what all it's about, man. They have many TV shows and stuff that's been teaching you about Christ consciousness. Because that's pretty much what this whole journey is about. Getting to the point where you can save yourself and have the first light of creation within yourself. And you can be the creator of your life. So you can do great things and good things and do the stuff that you want to do, instead of being out here being a victim to everything. That's what Christ is about, man. That's what Christ is about. It's balancing the feminine and masculine energies within yourself. Remember I said the divine masculine, divine feminine energies came together. In order for them to come together righteously, then they have to be balanced. So it's about balancing that divine feminine and divine masculine energies within yourself. There's many different ways to do that. The left and the right brain, the chakra system, each one is feminine and masculine chakra. Thoughts emotions, spiritual. There's many different ways to balance the divine, masculine and feminine, but it all starts from what? The spiritual, because everything that's physical and emotional, everything else comes first from the spiritual world. So get your spiritual stuff right first, and everything else gonna fall in place. All right. So that's what I want to say about Christ. Hope y'all have a good day, and peace. See y'all later. Excuse me.